Stewy and Emery are in Oświęcim, Poland, for Day 5 of our Gate 1 Kaleidoscope of Central Europe tour. After our morning tour of Krakow, we toured the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camps in the afternoon. We decided to make it a separate episode due to the subject matter. We saw the original Auschwitz, known as Auschwitz I, and its blocks of buildings and areas. Some blocks were feared more than others. Block 4 was the extermination area and housed the first gas chamber and crematorium. Block 10 is where Dr. Józef Mengele, also known as the Angel of Death, conducted his gruesome medical experiments on prisoners. Block 11, also known as the Death Block, was used to deliver various forms of punishment, including torture, executions, and standing cells. Later we toured Auschwitz-Birkenau, known as Auschwitz II. It was primarily designed as an extermination camp, but also held prisoners. The scale of the complex is massive. The gas chambers and crematoria could process over 4,000 bodies per day during peak times when trainloads of deportees arrived. Join us today as we experience Auschwitz-Birkenau. We boarded the bus with our local guide Tony for an hour-long drive west to the town of Oświęcim, where Auschwitz is located. For part of the journey, we watched a video about the history of Auschwitz. We arrived at the main entrance to the new Auschwitz-Birkenau Visitor Center, which opened in June of 2023. The center includes a bookstore, restaurant, cinema, parking, luggage storage, and restrooms. The entire area is a memorial and museum. The tour began with a nearly 2,000-foot or 600-meter-long passage, part of which is a tunnel almost 1,000 feet or 300 meters long. Part of the tunnel gradually rises upwards. This is the longest section that visitors cover without stopping during the tour of the first part of the museum. Eventually, we emerged from the passage and approached the entrance. The mood of the group was quiet and somber. Passing under the sign above the gate, past the guard towers and barbed wire, we were inside Auschwitz. The dark feeling of doom and sadness surrounded us. The sign says in German, Arbeit Macht Frei, which translates to work sets you free in English. We noticed commemorative signs here and there. These are reminders of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. These signs are placed throughout the site. We toured some of the buildings, which are called blocks. The blocks look unassuming on the outside, but what happened inside is unimaginable. Some blocks have been turned into exhibitions. Blocks 5 and 6 show thousands of personal belongings, like shoes, clothing, eyeglasses, and suitcases that were confiscated from the prisoners. What is on display is but a fraction of the actual amount. Upon arrival, prisoners were forced to surrender all their possessions, including clothing, jewelry, money, and personal items. The confiscated items were taken to areas within the camp known as Canada, where they were sorted and processed. The most valuable items, such as gold and precious metals, were sent to the Reichsbank in Berlin. Other items like clothing and household goods were distributed to German civilians or used by German industries. Gold fillings were extracted from the teeth of the murdered victims. Clothing was repurposed or sold, and personal documents and photographs were destroyed. We saw displays of photographs, timelines, and historical information. We toured Block 11, the Death Block. Here, prisoners were tried for crimes and punished. After judgment was passed, most were killed by firing squad. Female prisoners were stripped naked and marched out 2 by 2 to the death wall and shot. Male prisoners were also stripped and some shot on the spot. Others were taken to the wall. We walked past the area where public executions by hanging were performed. Prisoners were hung on the rail in front of the building. This was the morning roll call area where all the prisoners stood in formation and were forced to watch. Our tour of Auschwitz I ended at Gas Chamber and Crematorium I. The Germans could exterminate up to 400 prisoners a day here. This is also the site of the Gallows, where the first commandant of Auschwitz was hanged after he was sentenced to death by the Polish Supreme National Tribunal after the war. After a short bus ride, we arrived at Birkenau, also known as Auschwitz II. While Auschwitz began in 1940 as a concentration camp to detain Polish political prisoners, Birkenau was constructed in 1941 to house Soviet prisoners of war. However, it soon became the primary extermination center within the Auschwitz complex, designed to implement the final solution, Hitler's plan to systematically murder European Jews in his pursuit of genocide. Birkenau was created and transformed into the largest Nazi extermination camp. It served as the central killing facility for the Holocaust. We took a long walk along the train tracks that led to the gate. This was the end of the line. Here on these tracks, thousands arrived. Through media propaganda, Jews were led to believe that they were being relocated to labor camps or new settlements in the East. Upon arrival, individuals underwent a selection process. This was where SS doctors determined who would be immediately sent to the gas chambers and who would be used for forced labor. Young children, especially those deemed too young to work, were overwhelmingly selected for immediate extermination. The barracks at Birkenau are a representation of the dehumanization and horrific conditions endured by the prisoners. The barracks were extremely overcrowded, poorly constructed, unsanitary, and the lack of hygiene led to lice, rats, and other vermin in the barracks. There was a severe lack of basic sanitation. Toilet facilities were grossly inadequate and led to the rapid spread of disease. Auschwitz-Birkenau had 4 gas chambers and crematoria. Total capacity for processing bodies was upwards of 5,000 per day. The gas used was Zyklon B, which is a cyanide-based pesticide in crystal form. When heated, it turned into a deadly gas. Exposure leads to rapid and severe symptoms, including respiratory failure and death. As we left the Auschwitz-Birkenau, we were in shock. It was hard to comprehend what happened here. Our experience today at the Auschwitz-Birkenau Memorial and Museum will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching.